Well, I guess it's time to move on to the next problem now. I have this subframe on my hoist and I need to put it onto my flatbed trailer in order to get it sandblasted so that I can paint it. The problem is my flatbed trailer does not fit between the posts of the hoist, and I can't lift that independently of not being on the hoist. I could put it on the back of the Fuso, but then I can't really lift it off. I could put it on the floor, but then I can't move it around. What I've managed to find is a couple of these. These are a 12-volt power lift designed for the front of a trailer. So you bolt this onto your trailer frame, and this section here extends by about 14 inches. The idea here is that I'm going to attach a couple of these to this, lower it from the hoist, push it forward in the shop to where I can get my trailer underneath it, and then lower it onto the trailer. Now, I didn't buy these specifically for moving one thing one time. These are what will end up being the power lift jacks for the camper, so eventually I will modify them by removing the wheel and adding an extended length leg so that I can reach the ground. Let's give it a shot and see what happens. These jacks appear to be about 14 inches from the center of the mount to the bottom of the wheel, and they're a 14-inch extension. At least they're advertised as a 14-inch extension. We'll find out. So that should give me about 28 inches from the center of this to the ground. So what I'm going to do for an easier installation is actually lower the hoist so I'm not trying to hold this up at the same time as bolt it on. So I've lowered the subframe down to about 16 inches off the ground. That'll give me a little bit of play so I don't have to lift too far. I'm going to start by putting one trailer jack in the center of this cross member, which is the second one back from the front. And then I'm going to go on the outer edge of the second one in from the back. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to be able to roll the front of this over top of the back of the trailer, because I'm probably going to have to use something else to lift to get this onto the back of the trailer. So let's start with that. So it was kind of a fluke that I found these. I was sort of half looking for a power lift solution, but at the same time I had found some linear actuators that probably would have done the job. But I happened to be at Princess Auto, which, for those of you who don't know what Princess Auto is, it's kind of like the Canadian version of Harbor Freight. And these were on sale for $180 a piece. So for an electric lift that can lift supposedly 1,500 pounds, and they cost $180, I thought that was a reasonable deal to try. Now, I will also need to modify the control buttons so that I can make all four legs go down and up together, but I think that'll be a pretty simple modification, and I'll worry about that further down the road. For now, I just need to get this subframe onto my trailer so it can get blasted, so I can paint it before the weather gets too cold. Well, I think that's this step complete. It's down on 3 wheels, and I think that means that I can roll this subframe around on its own without being on the hoist. And I should be able to get about 14 inches of lift out of this. Not the easiest things to install with 2 hands. This is a 3-handed job for sure, but I managed to do it with some struggling. Okay, time for the first little test. I've just taken a riding lawnmower battery and hooked it up to this. I've taken the plug off that came with it and just wired it straight to the battery. As you can see, there's some lights that have come up on the top here. You can see the buttons lit up, so if you're operating it at night, you'll be able to see it. There's also a actual light to light up the area that you're working. I won't be using that, but let's give it a try and see how it lifts. Well, I'm pretty happy with that for a first little test. 14 inches of lift in a little over a minute. That's going to get this onto the trailer, and later on we'll get the camper box on and off the back of the truck. You may notice I'm having a little trouble getting this thing to go straight. It's because I have the front raised up and the rear lowered down, which screws with the caster angle. Lesson learned, roll it flat. Let's bring the trailer back and load this thing up.
With the trailer in place, this sketchy mess can start. If you're OSHA, please note I have my steel-toed shoes on and don't watch the rest of this. I'm trying to get the frame high enough that I can set it down on some aluminum frames that I have to keep it nice and high for easy bottom side access for the sandblaster. The idea is to keep the whole thing on the trailer while it's being blasted so I don't have to unload this again. Now that we have the stand in place, I can remove the jacks. Of course, using an impact on stainless bolts with nylock nuts is bound to have issues without lubricant, and of course, my first one locks up and I have to cut it off. With lubricant, the rest comes off fine. The procedure at the front is basically the same. Lift it up, block it, lift it again, lower it onto the stand. I'm pretty happy with these jacks so far. Of course, some modification will be needed, but I think they'll work out fine for my needs. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how that load went. Blocked up nice and high, there should be no issue for the sandblaster getting underneath it, and it was relatively easy with those electric jacks.
Well, all that's left to do at this point is to strap it down to the trailer and tow it off to the sandblaster. That's all I've got for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.